Recording right over there.
That's okay. It doesn't do it automatically on here, which you would think it would. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you for that, because I had no idea. I was just assuming it was recording.
No problem.
Let me fix my headphones here. I have the big set on and it just makes my hair up. So let's just jump right into it. So you were born and raised in Florida, correct?
I was actually born in Ohio, but I've been in Florida most of my life. So, raised here and grew up here.
Okay. We have sort of that in common. I lived in Florida. We were talking about being from the Clearwater area, which I...
Oh, Zipporah, you're frozen for me. I'm not sure if I'm frozen from you.
It's miss. There we go. I'm back.
Okay, good.
So I was asking, when you were a kid, what were your dreams? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I actually wanted to be a plastic surgeon, which is like really funny in retrospect, but that is like what I always wanted to be. I think I just thought like it was like, a way to make people feel great and feel beautiful and be happy. And that's kind of like how I saw it when I was younger, and a way to, get to do surgery without there being like any negativity associated with it. So I think that was like kind of where that came from. But like my parents still joke with me about like being 8 years old and being like, I want to be a plastic surgeon. They were like, that's so weird. Oh, I lost you again.
Okay, it looks like everybody is still here, I think. All right, let's try that again.
Okay. No problem.
So you were saying you wanted to be a plastic surgeon. And then I noticed somebody said something about how it was connecting. So I guess you stayed on while I went away.
Oh, yeah. We stayed on for just a minute, but then it kicked me off too. I think when the host leaves, maybe it kicks them off or kicks me off.
So how did that evolve into what you eventually did?
I went to college. I changed my major a bunch of times. I didn't really love like a lot of the pre-med classes. I changed my major to business, then I changed it to psych, and kind of back and forth. So, it was kind of like a dream that seemed really good until I got into it. And then I was like, oh, I don't actually really enjoy a lot of this stuff. And my parents were always really big on like, do what you love, do what you love, do what you love. So when I was like, oh, I kind of hate all these classes, they were like, well, I would change it then.
Awesome. So when did you kind of get first bit by the entrepreneurial bug? Like, what was your first business idea and what did you do with it? Some of us, started as kids, some of us started later. So
I kind of think I always had that. My grandfather was a serial entrepreneur. I think he owned like maybe 6 companies. So I kind of grew up with that being really normal. Actually, like my mom has 4 children in her family, and every single one of them is an entrepreneur. So just kind of like always thought that was really normal. I remember people used to ask me like, oh, like, where do you want to work when you get out of college? And I would be like, oh, I want to own my own business. And they'd be like, oh, doing what? And I'd be like, I don't know. I just want to own my own business. Like, even when I was in school for therapy, like I always assumed I would own my own practice. So I think it's just kind of always been an assumption that I would eventually have my own business.
Very nice. So before you got started in business, was there anything you obviously come from an entrepreneurial family, so your support system was probably very strong getting started, but is there anything that you wish that you knew before you started?
I think just that, there's not like this like magic secret or like magic bullet, right? Like I think especially like in the coaching entrepreneurial world, like it almost seems like when you first get into it, like everybody knows this secret or has this magic pill to like, 6 figures. And, just kind of, I wish I would have known at the beginning that isn't true at all. And even if they had a magic thing that worked for them, like my magic thing looks different. Right. So I think just knowing that like, there's no shortcut, right? Like you have to do the work, you have to show up. There's not like one thing that you don't know. And once you know it, everything will be perfect and your business will be easy. It's just like a constant evolution. So there's just no magic pill. You just got to show up and do the work.
Awesome. So obviously, starting businesses are a tough thing. And you were talking about the no magic pill, but what was your biggest lesson from starting your business, your first business?
I think just kind of like having unwavering confidence in myself and like my ability to make it work. Having come from a family of entrepreneurs, like that, there in some ways that was a blessing. In some ways it was a curse because they all started businesses like before the internet. Theirs were brick and mortar businesses, right? So I got a lot of feedback that was like, oh, you won't make money for at least a few years, or it's going to be really hard. It's not going to take off quite like you think. And I just like didn't listen. Like I was just like, no, it is. Like that unwavering confidence, and that ability to kind of like put blinders on and be like, I hear your advice, but I don't like choose to take it, I think was huge for me. Cause I think it could have really like sunk in to my subconscious there and been like, oh, I'm going to have to like work at this super hard for years before I make money. And I'm really glad that didn't happen, because I think that advice can really deter you.
Definitely. So what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received throughout your journey?
Gosh, I think, probably just something along the lines of, done is better than perfect. I'm definitely a recovering perfectionist, I would say. And so just like kind of giving myself like the space and permission to like get stuff out and just like tweak it as I go has been really huge for me. I think if I had waited till I felt like everything was perfect, I would still be waiting. I still don't feel like, I had like a meltdown last week about like how I feel like I need to redo my whole website. You know what I mean? We're always going to feel like that. And I think it's just like being available to start anyway.
So who was your biggest champion in starting?
My mom and my husband were both like really, really supportive. They saw how unhappy I was in like the 9-to-5 situation. And both of them were incredibly, supportive of me, like really going out there and making this happen. So I'm very lucky that I have like a strong support system that I didn't have to convince, right? Like when I was like faltering or getting nervous. Like they believed in me more than I did a lot of the time. So I'm very lucky that I had that.
So you and I are both big Seth Godin fans. We've spoken about that, and one of his books, The Dip. What kind of kept you going through those times where you weren't sure if things were going to work, or you got frustrated, or you were starting to see,
Yeah. I think two things. I think one is just kind of this feeling of being like meant to do something big. Like I've always kind of had that, internal pull. And I think as soon as I like leaned into it in entrepreneurship, it got a lot stronger. So like really tapping into that and paying attention to that more, I think helped me a lot. And then also just kind of, being willing to look at priorities, I guess is how I would say it. So, at the time I probably could have been making a lot more money in my old 9-to-5, right? But like, what was I giving up for that, right? So like always being willing to check in on priorities. Like, would I rather like have to not, buy a new outfit this week or something silly like that, and like get to not have a boss that I hate, or have, this job that like leaves me feeling unfulfilled? Like I was always really good at like checking in with my priorities around that situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
I think sometimes we just want it all at once. And what really helped me is like being available to be clear on like what was the most important thing, and then back off from there.
So how did you move from, you were talking before about changing your major in college, but your first business was this vintage clothing store, which you still have currently, correct?
I don't really have as much a role in it. My one of my family members runs it now, but it still exists.
Okay. So how did you start that and then kind of wind up in the coaching? How did you get to that?
So the clothing business was like, it literally just kind of happened out of nowhere. I mean, it almost just fell into my lap, and it was amazing and I loved it. But, I got to a point with it where it was either like, I need to go full in and like make it like really start scaling, really start making it bigger, or I need to decide like what's the next thing. And it always felt kind of like a stopgap to me. Like, not that I didn't really love it, but I always knew it was like not meant to be my forever thing, right? Like my like life's dream wasn't to own that business. Like I always felt like there was something else. But what I realized through owning that business is that, I missed a lot of the parts of therapy that I was doing. I really loved this strategy. Like I more liked running that business than what the business was about, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So coaching really became like the only opportunity I saw to combine all of the things I love, which is like, mental health, mindset, all of that, and then like business strategy. And so this really was almost like the only answer for me, if that makes sense, because I only wanted to move into another business that like really let me show up with like everything that I cared about and all of my, unique traits and gifts.
So I think one of the hardest things for people who want to start a business and kind of to get through that is defining what it is that you do and who you do it for. How did that come about for you?
So, I mean, I did the thing that everybody does, right? Like it was really broad at the beginning. Like, oh, I could help you in your whole life and business, right? And then I, hired my first business coach, and I remember her saying to me, like one of our very first call, she said to me, so what's your opt-in? And I was like, oh, it's a 55-page book. And she was like, what? First of all, no. Second of all, like, how long did it take you to write that? And I was like, I don't know, a couple days, maybe. And she was like, oh my gosh, like you're really good at pumping out content. And I was like, yeah, that's no problem for me. I have a system. I'm really good at it. And she was like, I feel like that's totally your strength. And I would have never seen it had she not like reflected that to me. But as soon as she did, I was like, oh, wow, that is my strength. I have a system I use. I have like a way that I do this. I could really teach this. So, I led with content for, quite a while. I still talk about content all the time. But, you know, I think as your business grows and people get to know you, you have more room to expand, right? Like now I can talk about some other things because people know me. Like they know my core, what I stand for. But I think at the beginning, it's so smart to lead with something really specific so people can really build up that know, like, and trust factor with you.
Awesome. Okay. So part of what I wanted to do with this show was really get to know people. So we're going to kind of move away from the business aspect of it, unless anybody else that's watching has any questions for Lacey before we move on. We are going to do a little question and answer at the end too. So, but what do you like to do for fun? Like, what's your relaxation?
I'm like so into being outdoors. Like I just feel like when I'm outside, my batteries are recharging. So anything related to that, like running, being, you know, going for walks, hikes, taking the dogs for walks, even just like sitting outside. Like I'm just such a person that like recharges by being outdoors. So any of my like fun time, I like for it to be centered around that.
And how do you stay productive?
I really try to be relatively intentional, I guess is what I'll say. Like I set a list each day for what I'm going to get done. I write intentions for each day in the morning, and I'm just really in the process now of kind of like making that happen. Like if I know what my intentions are, what I want my day to look like, and what I need to get accomplished, like it's really easy to do that. I think it's hard to be productive when you like sit down and you feel like you have 30,000 things to do. But I try to just set like a really reasonable amount of things to get done each day. And like, if I have more time, cool, I might pick up something else, but, you know, not like overscheduling, I guess, is part of it.
Definitely. I think that's a problem for a lot of entrepreneurs is writing out those giant to-do lists and not feeling productive because you've only crossed off 2 or 3 things by the end of the day and you still have, you know, the list that's that long.
Right. And you don't know like which one should be your priority for that day. So I get like really clear about like what is the intention for today, right? So that way like all of my choices can come from that place.
Perfect. So what back to Lacey, who Lacey is outside of business, what's your favorite movie?
Gosh, if you would have asked me that like a couple weeks ago, I would probably say like Good Will Hunting. I really love that movie. I also really love Silver Linings Playbook. But last week I watched Joy with Jennifer Lawrence, and I really loved that too. That like touched me a lot, especially as like a female entrepreneur. So I would say any one of those.
It's starting to rain and I am sort of outside, so I'm just moving over a little bit. So we don't get my computer wet.
Yeah.
So, I watched Joy a few months ago too when it came out, and I was like, I walked out of the theater and I was like in tears. I was like,
yeah, I'm glad I did watch it in theater because I was like definitely crying my eyes out. I was like, this is so great.
so inspirational for really like the entrepreneur, the female entrepreneur, especially, to never give up and never, you know, it's a great movie for people to watch.
Yeah.
How about your favorite books? They can, you know, business book, pleasure book, whatever.
Pleasure books, I really like a lot of classic books. That's kind of my thing. I like for business books, I don't know if this is like totally business, but The Power of the Subconscious, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy has been like a truly like transformational book for me. I recommend it to like everyone I know. By far like my favorite book to really just like, you know, train your subconscious basically to like create the things that you want.
I'm starting to get into those types of books myself. I started reading Buddha's Brain, which is really interesting to me. It's kind of the science behind the woo-woo is what I'm calling it.
Yeah,
so
totally
love those kind of, you know, power of the mind kind of books. And they're definitely, I think for entrepreneurs, they're probably a should be reading list.
Yeah, definitely.
How about quotes? Do you have any favorite quotes?
Pretty much like anything, Rumi is like a big thing for me, but like what you seek is seeking you is one that I go back to very often. It's probably my favorite. Just because when we, it's really easy to get into those places where we feel like we're like chasing something that's not chasing us back, right? And so often that's not the case. We just have to be like available to let it come to us. And I remind myself of that quote quite often because I'm definitely a high achiever. And sometimes I have to remember that like there's my work and then there's the universe's work. And that really helps me remember that.
That's a great quote. What you seek,
Seeking you.
Is seeking you. That's definitely something, I like that a lot. So here's the question that kind of, it's one of those general questions you see everywhere, but if you were able to have dinner with anybody, who would it be and what would you talk about?
Oh gosh. Probably like one of my like business heroes is Yvon Chouinard. He is the founder of Patagonia, and he wrote an amazing book called Let My People Go Surfing. And I would love to have dinner with him just because I really resonate with his business philosophy. Like he's created his company in a way that is so in alignment with him, so true to his values, so true to his integrity. It's just a complete reflection of who he is as a person and like what he believes. And he's built that into this, $400+ million company, and really like has stayed true to his intentions with it all along. Like they really do like give their employees breaks to go surfing and stuff like that because it's just so important to him to be building a company that is a reflection of him. And I honor that so much. And I know that's what I want to do in my business. So I would definitely pick him.
So what else so just talk about entrepreneurial type things with him, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would just love to pick his brain on kind of like what it's taken to stay in integrity that long, right? I think, when we're like solo entrepreneurs or small entrepreneurs, it's really easy because we are our business. When you're like scaling to $400 million, it becomes really different. So just like picking his brain on like, how has he stayed so true to himself and kept that, when you have hundreds of employees and so on and so forth.
Awesome. So I want to finish off the show, so we have a few more minutes. Some of the people that follow me know that I have and still kind of do have a career in filmmaking. One of my favorite shows was Inside the Actor's Studio, and there's a list of questions that he does at the end that I always found fascinating. And I said, if I ever do a show, I'm going to do these. So that's where they come from, just to give you a little background. So what is your favorite word?
Oh, my favorite word. Gosh, this might not be forever, but it is for right now. But I really like the word relentless right now. Just kind of remembering to be like relentless in everything I do.
Awesome. What's your least favorite word?
I mean, probably anything circling around the I'll try or I can't or arena. I think life is kind of all about priorities. There's never really a try or can't. There's just is it a priority, right?
Absolutely. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
I really love kind of like being, I don't want to say being alone, but like having like mental white space is kind of what gives me a lot of, clarity and makes me feel really spiritual and connected. So like, even like when we run these businesses from home, right? Like we're sometimes alone, like my husband works, I'm alone a lot of the day, but I don't always give myself that mental white space. So really like tapping back into, that creative time, that time where like we're not in front of a computer or a TV or whatever. That's like huge for me.
Definitely. What turns you off?
I guess like just listening to kind of like excuses or reasons why things can't happen, I'm like really don't like to participate in that. I'm not available for that. Like I was mentioning to you how, you know, I got a lot of advice at the beginning of like, your business will take years before you make money. Like I just try not to make myself available for any of that or participate in any of that.
What is your favorite curse word?
Oh gosh, I say the F word a little too often. So I think that's probably mine. Just feels like there's so much emphasis with it, right?
I think all of us have our times when we've said the F word.
Yeah, absolutely.
What sound or noise do you love?
I actually love the sound of rain. Like I can hear it a little bit in the background there with you, and it's like very soothing. Yeah, I love listening to rain. Or like I have a sound machine that I'll put that on. It's very soothing.
Awesome. What sound or noise do you not like?
Gosh, lately I've been really aversive to hearing my dogs bark because it's usually in the middle of a client call or something like that. So we're working on reining that in with them a little bit.
So if you could do any other profession other than what you're in now, what else would you choose to do or like to attempt?
Gosh. That's so funny. It's so hard because like this just feels like it for me, right? But I mean, probably like it would definitely be something business related. So like operations for a larger company, I'd probably be pretty happy into.
What profession would you not like to attempt?
Well, I know I wouldn't go back to therapy. Another profession that I think just in general seems really, really challenging and hard, just because I have 2 clients that have done this, is being a teacher. Just seems like, I don't know, that just seems like just about the hardest job in the world. I commend them so much, but I don't think I could do that.
I was actually a teacher for a few years, and I made it right to the cutoff. They say if you're a teacher, if you make it past 3 years, you'll do it. I left at 3 years. So
yeah, that just seems like such a tough job on so many levels.
The teaching aspect of it I loved, but the rest of it that went along with it was challenging to say the least.
Yes.
And then finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear when you enter the pearly gates?
Oh, good question. I mean, probably just like, thanks for showing up, right? Like, I feel like that's kind of what life is about, is like, are you like available to like show up and, you know, be the best version of yourself, be the person you're meant to be, do the work that you're meant to do. So for me, there's no like end goal. I just want to be available to show up all the time.
Awesome. Thanks for showing up. That's great. Well, thank you for showing up. And if any of our attendees have any questions for Lacey, so much yes on thriving in the moment and showing up. Thank you, Nicola.
Yeah, definitely. Like Gary Vee has been talking lately about how he doesn't care if he cares, but I mean, his like end game isn't just like, I want to buy the Jets, but I want to have tried to buy the Jets, right? Because he's a huge Jets fan. And I kind of think that's how I feel about life. It's like, it's not like, am I going to get to this point? It's like, I want to have shown up every day to try to get there.
Definitely. And I think it's kind of the feeling in your group too, specifically, that you definitely put across is everybody just showing up and putting the effort in every day. And for those of you that are not familiar with Lacey's group, do you want to talk a little bit about your group?
Sure. Yeah, it's called the Lit Up and Loaded Entrepreneur. It's my Facebook community, and that's exactly what it's about, right? Is like not being perfect, creating like you don't have to have a certain income to be in there. It's none of those things. It's just like a complete willingness to like show up and do the work. And I love to guide people to do that and really support them in that.
And I would definitely say, if you're not in the group, you need to show up there, because the community itself, the support in there, the place that you've put together, and then your encouragement on top of it, I feel like I've seen some of the women that are in your group in other places, and I've seen them show up more in your group than anywhere else. So
that's awesome.
Myself included.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, there is no room for being in competition with one another, right? Like a rising tide really does lift all boats, and we have to be so relentless about, being part of that.
Definitely. So we are we're about 2 minutes over. So if anybody has any questions or wants to call in, now's the chance. Me unlock the seat. See if anybody wants to call in and join. And if not, I will guess it's really starting.
Yes, get inside.
So thank you again so much for coming and being our first guest. And I'm looking forward to continuing on in the Lit Up Partnership. I actually wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that if you wanted to also, if you want to.
Sure. A Lit Up Partnership is basically, I hate the word contest, but I suppose that's sort of what it is. But it's like something I'm running right now where I'm picking one entrepreneur to work with me for 6 months. And instead of, the normal coaching rate, they only are paying me 15% of the revenue we generate during our work together. The reason I created it is because I really want to bring a different conversation to the coaching industry. I want to put my money where my mouth is. I want to create opportunity where there maybe hasn't been some before. It's definitely new for me. It's the first time I'm doing it. So I'm like really excited to see how it goes. And ultimately, like what I want to do even more than pick a partner is like really make sure that it's an opportunity for everybody to step up, reevaluate their business, and see that like, yes, coaching is amazing, but like you can do it anyway, right? Like this 15% thing could happen with or without me, right? Or like, coaching gets you there faster, but like so does showing up for yourself. So like making it a really positive experience for everybody that's going through it is kind of what it's been about.
Definitely. And there is absolutely that feeling there. So I have loved being a part of that so far. And thank you again for showing up, being our first guest. So I will end this now, and we will speak again soon.
Definitely. Thanks, Sephora. Thanks for joining us, Nicola. Bye.
Thanks. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you, Lacey. See you guys later.